Welcome to the Fence and Deck Mastery Podcast, where we discuss cutting-edge techniques, industry trends, and business insights to take your fence or deck company to the next level and dominate your competition. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fence and Deck Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Danner, and also the owner and founder of Fence and Deck Marketers, which is a marketing agency that works exclusively with fencing and decking businesses. And have an episode today that I'm really excited about, and I'll touch on that and give you a little backstory in a second. But in the past episodes, I've been talking about the NADRA Summit, and I'm continuing that trend here. I have a really cool guest and somebody that really stuck out above most with the award ceremonies, and really just really excited to talk about what he won for and just some of the stuff that he's been working on, and all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to spoil it just yet, and I'll let Dan kind of talk about it more. But some of the work that he did just really blew me away. And today I have Dan Pettit from Northern Outdoor Living. And Dan actually won several awards at the summit, and I'll let him talk about those. But Dan, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. How's it going, man?
Yeah, man. Honored to be here. Appreciate you inviting me. It's going really well.
Yeah, no problem. So when I was at the summit, it's pretty overwhelming, I guess, the NADRA Summit, because there's so many awards and so many things. And that was my first time, so I was like kind of digesting it all. But the one thing that my wife and I like really stuck out to us was the lighting. Like, I wouldn't have guessed that, to be honest. I would have thought like, the biggest, most expensive decks would catch my eye, which they did. But
Yeah.
all the lighting stuff, I never really realized how intense it can get, or how creative deck builders can get with that. And Dan actually created one that I'll let him talk about it, but it almost simulated the sky, basically, is kind of my understanding. Like, I won't ruin it. I'll let him talk about it. But I looked at we hadn't met until just today, and I kind of put the two together right before the podcast and was talking about it. But he's doing a lot of amazing work in Minnesota. And Dan, I guess, Dan, to start, like, what was that, what you built there? Because you won first in the lighting, and I think you got two other awards, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, it was Illumination. I have to cheat here.
He's looking at the awards behind his back for anybody
And then
that's not watching video.
there's a unique feature that that we lit up so the big project was outlining three huge landmarks where I live in Hastings, Minnesota. And one of the center landmark was it's called the Vermilion Falls. And that comes down, and on the project, we have a real water feature coming down, and then it flows into a river, an inlay of a river, a kind of a winding river. And so one of the awards was for that, because it was for the inlay, and for a special feature because we lit that up with some fiber optics. And I've done fiber optics in the wall in the past couple of years, but I've never done it on the floor, so that was a first for me. So
Nice.
yeah, that turned out to be kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first thoughts I had too was like, was it a certain type of customer that like wanted something like this, or you were just like, I had this idea, and you came and threw it out there, and they're like, I love it, or how did that come about, I guess?
Sure. I'm always embellishing and making a seed from what the customer has kind of come to life, right? I'll never go to a customer and say we should do this or that. So this particular customer had seen some early work I'd done in 2022, which was my Tree of Life project, or Tree of Life wall. And long story short, she had seen that, and said, and I'd gotten a cold call from her, and she said, "Hey Dan, I'd really like you to come out to our property and look at what we want to do, and I already know what my mural is going to be." And I said, "Mural? What do you mean?" She said, "Well, my big light up wall. I know what we're going to do." So, oh, great. So went out there. It actually took about a year and a half from that call till we finished. But she's a huge Hastings history lover, right? Hastings has a lot of pride for their heritage. So we had a spiral bridge. I believe it was the only one in North America. I did a lot of research when I was designing that wall. But we had a spiral bridge that got torn down in 51, and the mayor of Hastings at that time was building the house that they were living in, and they wanted to the city wanted to repurpose all that steel in 51. So part of that spiral bridge went into the substructure of their home, right? So
Huh.
it's a really cool
Wow.
thing. But every one of those scenes on that wall is a iconic Hastings place, and so that's where it started from. She wanted to have this Hastings spiral bridge kind of emulation somehow, and we light it up kind of the way she'd seen some of my past work. So that was the inception. Um, the rest was another story, but the rest kind of unfolded. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it seemed very like specific when I saw it. I didn't even realize that it had like that history behind it. It just looked like, I mean, a million stars, I guess. I mean, how many different lights were on that so it's like a privacy screen? Is that what it was?
Well, the wall is it's a curved wall, and it is 8 feet tall. It's 7 feet tall on the flanks, and in the center, it's 8 feet tall. Each section is 12 foot, has a 12-foot arc, and that's on like a 78-foot radius. So like this, I've never done radiuses before, and I've never done any kind of curved, really anything. And so I thought, well, we started a slight curve, which was really nice way to break into it, right? But that is framed and decked, and then so the question, how many light systems is going on in there? We have 3 in total fiber optic light engines, 2 for the wall and 1 for the river. There's a bunch of inlight Evo strips backlighting all the scenes, and also in the front of the deck, lighting right under the right under the deck, so you get a little glow underneath the deck, and some more Evo strips on the right side of the wall, which emulates Hastings modern bridge now, and it's an arched bridge with lights underneath. And so we spent a lot of time really emulating a photograph. So every one of those scenes is actually a photograph that we didn't want to emulate to a T, but we wanted to use that for an inspiration to recreate, right? And I think the last thing we did was we had the wall disc that kind of represents the moon or sun, and it almost looks like an eclipsed moon or sun, but it's in the center. It's in the center section by the Vermilion Falls, and that's hooked up to a touch sensor. You can touch it, and you get 4 different intensities of the light, right? So you're not stuck with just like full on bright. You can kind of make it match your mood.
Gotcha.
That's the light. Oh, and then there's some lighting in my spillway that actually is really cool because it treats the water like a conduit, and then the water turns into a lit up kind of image all by itself. So there's quite a bit going on there.
Gotcha. Okay. And what different companies did you use to build it?
Right. So all the decking, cladding, anything on the wall, anything on the ground, that's all millboard.
Okay.
And that's a really fantastic looking board. They're out of Coventry, England.
Yeah, I hear more and more about them. It seems
Yep,
like every day.
they're making their way here, and we built their IBS stand last year, and that actually won an award too. It was a really big stand. It was really cool. A lot of cool things going on there. And then the lighting was all in light, and then I had some adorned stone on there, um, mocking up all of my kind of rockery fixtures. We had the center section had a rock wall where the water was splashing down. I think that's it.
Gotcha. Okay. Um,
Yeah.
so obviously you're a member of NADRA. How long have you been in NADRA?
I believe I've been in NADRA since 19.
Okay. How many different awards have you won? I see quite a few behind you on the wall.
Um, I had 13 from NADRA.
Okay.
Um,
Jeez. So you started, when did you start entering into the competition?
even 3 years ago, right? So
Wow.
my first
Nice.
year, my first year blew me away, and I think it was I entered two of the fiber optic projects in there. That was the first year I did them, and so it kind of made a little splash in the industry just because it was coming out of left field, you know. Um, and so I think, yeah, we had six on that year. Um, that was the first year, three last year, and then I think four this year.
Nice. Oh, you won four
Yeah,
this year. Okay. I was missing one.
it was the millboard display. That's a category. You can do a display award.
So what were
So
the total awards?
for this year,
Yeah, for this year.
yeah, for this year, three of them were for that spiral project. That's illumination, special feature, and inlay.
Oh,
And
okay.
then one of them was the display, commercial display.
For like home shows.
Yeah, and that was for Millboard at IBS.
Oh, right. Okay. I got
Yeah,
you.
that was a 40 by 40. That was a big one, but
Gotcha.
with a lot of cool things happening on it for sure.
Gotcha. Okay. So with these, I mean, are you when you create different projects now, is it kind of in the back of your mind or maybe in the front of it for entering it into the awards, or are you just building stuff and just submit it, and if it works out, it's great.
Yeah, uh, I wouldn't say, and I don't know who's going to believe me, but I wouldn't say that NADRA's driving me to do this. There's something much different that's driving me to kind of explore the realms I'm exploring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, NADRA's a very cool place to have a summit, to house a summit like this, to recognize people, to get all these people together. Uh, I've been there twice, and it is nothing but great positive minds intermingling, making new networks, making new relationships, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Um, but that's not what that's not driving me to just be interested in what I'm interested in.
What would you say does drive you then? Just pushing the limits and creating new cool stuff?
Yeah, so in my past life, um, I was I was a musician for quite a while, and until one day when I had to get a job in the trades to make sure my musician habit could keep going, and that's slowly flip flop. But for a while there, actually, post 2008, um, the trades were in a bad they're in a bad shape, in a bad way, right? And what happened was I was teaching. I had 40 private students,
Oh,
and
wow.
I was doing about 120 shows a year,
Oh, wow.
and that was really that was a really stable gig compared to what was happening in my. I was a line carpenter for a custom, really nice high-end custom builder, but they kept giving 5% pay cuts to the whole team just to not lay anyone off, right? They really wanted to save the team, which was great. And and I realized my music, hobby, passion, whatever, was way more stable than my trades uh, career. And I did make a jump for about 12 years. I was teaching and doing shows for about 12 years, and that was it. And I left the trades, officially. I still built things here and there, but that's what I was doing until 2018 when I started my company. Um, and I just think I have that in me. I love music. I love creating that kind of thing. Um, and so I think I'm just creative. Whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to just try and be creative at it. And so I think I put all of that down and put all my eggs in my company that I created. Spent a lot of time and money getting a license, and making a company and licensing and just all that. And
Yeah.
so I thought, I just whatever creativity I had, I was kind of letting it come out in that respect, right? And so when I honed into the outdoor living, I think it was a place where I could really kind of concentrate on being creative and being a part of these. Just seeing the stuff online with Instagram and all that. I don't even think I was on Instagram when I niched down, but I just definitely saw the possibility of letting a little more personality come through. Could be the designer. You could not only be the designer, but then you're on site making sure those visions are kind of coming to fruition the way you want it to. You can make real quick um, pivots if you need to. It's not going to work like that. We're gonna have to redo something here, and you can redesign on the fly, which isn't ideal for sure, but you're nice and agile. That's how
Yeah.
I felt. So
Okay.
yeah.
So would you say with your business, like you like keeping it, like, I don't know, do you have like goals to scale it like big, or you like keeping it? Because we were talking before, you work with one other guy that you trust, or you enjoy just like keeping it smaller, or are you trying to grow it bigger one day? I mean, what's the long-term plan, I guess?
Right, right.
You get that a lot?
Well, I've researched and engaged myself with what I think that long-term plan is and should be. I've been doing that pretty hardcore for a couple of years now, and I've gone some directions, and I've listened to my insides, and it's a bit of a moving target, I think, at this point. I know that there's pros and cons to staying small, like me, like what I'm doing, and there's pros and cons to scaling. And I really have to, now that I've kind of got my business positioned in a way where I'm understanding how and what I can put out the best. I need to live with that for a little bit, create a model for myself, and then we'll see if scaling is what's in the picture or not. But
Gotcha.
I think I need to live with what I'm doing right now for a while and really understand that.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, so you said you won 13 NADRA awards. So I'd love to, yeah, I really wanted to like speak with you and kind of give some ideas to anybody that might want to participate in NADRA, because it's pretty shocking how few deck builders are part of NADRA. It seems like, because um, as an example, we were talking about in Minnesota. I was literally there last week for like a training with TimberTech and BPI,
Yeah.
and they I asked, I had a slide that had NADRA on there. I asked, is anybody part of NADRA? I think there was like five people out of, the 100 to 200 people that were there,
Wow.
that were
Yeah.
part of it, and kind of just blew my mind, to be honest, because I thought pretty much everybody was in it, because I hear nothing but good things. I'm part of it. I'm a member. But
Yeah.
as being a deck builder is gonna be the biggest advantage if you're a member. So, um, but I'm just curious too, like with winning all those awards, I'm trying to give people like some ideas of like how to submit and whatnot. So I'd love to hear what you think in terms of how you kind of prepare for the awards, and when you submit, like different things you do. Is there any stuff that you really look at that you think helps you win? I mean, is it just the work in general? You're doing these amazing jobs, or you think the way you submit or the pictures you take, or is there any variables there that you think are really important?
Yeah, for sure. Right. So, yeah, there's a lot in that question. The submission process is one thing that you want to make sure you're approaching correctly. But then there's the building of the project that you're going to submit, or the building of a project that is submittable, right? Um, so the submission process is, if you have something you're thinking is worthy to go in there, those finished photos are like, it's 1,000 words a
Yeah.
photo can do it. And I haven't even, there's guys out there and gals that have mastered really capturing their projects um, to a T, and I'm sure they're still trying to refine that. But I I think I have a long way to go to capture those things correctly. Um, you know, I have a drone guy that I hire, and I thought about doing it myself. I mean, you got to commit to being to the craft of the, you got to respect that that's a skill and a craft. So I sub that out for sure. I farm that out to a guy that does a great job. He loves flying. Makes his own drones and all that, right? So when you're capturing, just make sure you're getting um, professionals, or you do a professional job capturing it, right? Um, don't have hoses. Don't have, um, just clean the place up. Make it look like it's going to be in a magazine, right?
Yeah.
Because yeah, it might be phenomenal work, but some things laying around or some stuff in the background can really just bring it down to reality, to the person looking at it, and take them away from this kind of aha imagery that we're trying to put out there, especially if it's for the judges. So that would be huge, I think. um, Making sure that you really feel like you're going to take something that's going to a magazine. So capturing that. And then there's also they have 200-word descriptions that you're allowed to have, and those are challenging a little bit, because trying to fit everything you're doing into 200 words sometimes, because it's there for the judges to read about what they can't see, right? How hard, maybe it looks like everything flows together great, but man, but pulling that off is a real hard thing. um, and there's some complications you had to overcome, and innovative thinking you had to do, right? So that all goes into the 200-word essay or description for the judges. So thinking about those things, um, that's for the submission side. That's what I think about. I've really concentrated in the recent on capturing content all around the builds, much more than I did at the beginning, sure, at all stages. So if you are doing complicated innovative things behind the scenes, it's really cool to capture that time lapse or photos, or just a 2 second, 2 or 3 second clip of it, of something happening that you would have never known about. um, and you can put all that into the submission form. You get one video and, I believe, 6 photos
Okay.
that
Yeah.
they're looking for.
How long can the video be? Is there any limit on that?
Yeah, they upped it to 60 seconds, I think a year or two ago. It was 30, but it's 60 seconds. It's got to be squashed down to 100 megabytes, I think
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Um,
sure. Right.
That's got to be squashed down. So, everyone's probably doing it in high definition videography, and then your pictures have to be a certain size, um, and they'll ask for the best picture first, and then they might ask for a before, just so they can see what they're kind of the transformation that happened. But it's really up to your discretion to enter what you think is gonna showcase, your whole process for the entering that.
Yeah. Do you promote like your wins at all? Like I was looking at your website. Think I I don't think it's
Um,
there.
I haven't touched that website in 3 or 4 years, 3 years maybe.
Okay.
Maybe we've touched it here and there, but no, that's in desperate need this winter. I'm going to be working on that, um, and I don't know if I quite know how to showcase some achievements that the business has without coming across as a little arrogant or
No.
right. So I don't. So I do want to showcase. I do want to put that in front of people, um, the clients, right? So they have faith and a little trust, and but but giving them that impression tactfully is something I'm still trying to work on.
Yeah. I wouldn't worry about like feeling like you're bragging or anything. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what people want to see, especially I'm looking I've looked at the website. I got it up on my other screen here. I'm
Sure.
watching the
Yeah.
videos right now as we speak. I
Right
mean, you're
on.
just showing what people want to see. So if you have, I always say, I mean, we do a lot of all the websites we build and all the marketing we do. We're always looking for, I mean, that's one of the questions is like, did you win any kind of awards? A NADRA award is a big one, but
Right.
that's probably the biggest one of the ones we display. Like we'll show if you're Timber Tech Platinum or Decorators Certified Elite, but like nobody really knows what that is. But if you say you won like the national deck competition for best deck or whatever, that's something everybody can understand.
Right.
And I mean, you got some great videos on here. I mean, the website, I agree, could use some work, but like the whole drone and everything you were talking about, it looks like you guys are doing some cool stuff with that. I like all the aerial views. It looks good.
Now the first one was my first and last finished product. The first one that you see when it pops up on that with the Tree of Life
Yeah, yeah,
on the
yeah.
website. That was me flying and everything, and that's when I realized, all right, I need to hand it off. And so everything else henceforth has been someone else. But
Oh god.
but yeah,
It's so crazy, man. The lights on that. Everybody should go there. It's northernoutdoorliving.com. But I mean, just seeing the lights and I mean, it's just a million of them. It looks like, you know,
that's about
hundreds.
a yeah, that's probably a little over 1,000 on that one. That might be
Oh,
the
wow.
the most dense we've done. Um, the other ones, like you said, they're more starscapes. They're more silhouetted landscape. So like the next one we did was a 24-foot wall, and it was a recreation of a photograph of the Split Rock Lighthouse in northern Minnesota, um, on Lake Superior, and it was for a client who's just kind of a Minnesota nut enthusiast, just loving the sights and sounds of Minnesota. So I found a photograph of two bluffs kind of going into Lake Superior, one on each side, and one had
Mhm.
the lighthouse, and one was another bluff with trees. And so that one wasn't about necessarily doing 1,000 points. It was more about just taking that piece of Minnesota and bringing it to his backyard, and then throwing the lights in there, and you can create these kind of northern lights effects, the different colors
Oh,
that
that's cool.
do in the background. You know, I secretly found out his and his wife's birthdays, and snuck in their constellations in their fiber wall, and that was a little surprise nugget. They had fun trying to find their constellations in the wall, but
That's cool. That's unreal. Like I never would have even crossed my mind to do that. Somebody could do something like that. uh, So I mean, it's very unique. We make tons of websites and I never see any pictures like this.
I don't even think the split rock is up there. Anything beyond the tree of life is not up there as far
Yeah.
as my fiber work. That's probably just on the socials. And that's one of the reasons I got to revamp it. I got to get that a little more updated with the past 2.5 years, 3 years of work. So
Well, you're looking at a website guy, man. Just saying. If you need
right on. I don't know. We got to talk after this, huh?
yeah. All right. So, I mean, out of joining NADRA, I mean, what do you think you've gotten the most out of? Because I mean, we were talking before, you're touching on that a little bit, but like, what do you think is, the best reason for joining it, or what you really has helped you out the most?
Yeah, I think it's community, hands down. I think it's community and getting it unbiased advice from people in my shoes, so to speak, because I can't go to the guy in the next town and say, hey, what are you doing to get leads, or how are you making
Yeah.
this really easy for you to beat out the other guys, or I don't know, not necessarily that, but just what are the processes that you're honing in on that work for you. And Nadra is just full of business owners, right? And other people in the business that have super valuable information, and everyone's willing to share it. Even
Yeah.
if people are, even if people are like Josh Ferry's next to me, he's a great builder. But you know, on a sidebar, um, I've really adopted the thought process of trying to position myself differently than everyone. And
Yeah.
so it doesn't matter. When I first started doing it, I was thinking, how can I, if I'm not here the next day, have I created, is there a hole in the market? Is there something that's not being done now that northern outdoor living isn't there? And that's really where my head was at. And, that was one of the reasons, that kind of lends itself to my direction, like the creativity part of where I was going. It was really, really trying to satisfy some creative stuff, satisfy some client things, right? First and foremost, we want to make a great outdoor experience for them in a way that they've never imagined or seen, right? So, but in doing all that, getting yourself into a position where no one else is working, right? And so,
Yeah.
so I'm just bringing that full circle to, like, I know a lot of guys around me, and I'm not worried about losing jobs to anyone just because there's plenty of work to go around.
Yeah. You guys are in, when I was at that speaking thing, I think you guys are in like one of the top states in the whole US for demand too. So you're obviously in a good area too. I think
Ah, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't know that.
that's what I thought it was. I thought that Brian from TimberTech, I think he said it was like top three, something like that. So yeah, it seems like, I mean, if you have a lake, you got to have a deck. So there's a million lakes in there. It seems like.
Yeah, that's true. We like our outdoor living for sure, man.
Yeah, it kind of blows my mind, to be honest, that it's getting big since COVID with outdoor living. Like, it's never not been a priority in my, like, growing up or wanting a house or whatever, whatever age I was always at, like the outdoor side has always been what I wanted most, like something like a cool deck or, pool. Um, you know, it just, that's always what I thought was nice. I wanted to be outside, but it's kind of surprised me to hear that that's now what, like, becoming more and more normal, with most people. Whereas I kind of just figured everybody wanted that, but apparently that wasn't really the case at one point.
No, well, it is less than doing a big addition. Well, it can be, um, but you're really maximizing getting more living space. If you turn it into a gathering area, gathering room, outdoor kitchen, covered area, you can get a lot more bang for your buck by creating some outdoor living space, I think.
That's a
And
good point. Yeah. Never really
I
thought
think
about that.
I think my experience with COVID was, um, people were working from home, and they were like, well, I'm going to work outside. And so there was a huge push to get a nice, not just a not just a deck thrown up, but a nice living space put up so they could conduct themselves and not feel like they're out in the yard, or they're out, you know, they could feel like they're at their home doing work in this nice outdoor environment, right?
Yeah.
And then you get the kids, schools were home. I mean, I'm not saying anything that's new, right? But it's like, okay, well, and everyone had to be home. And well, we have a covered screen-in porch, a screen-in deck, and that became, anytime we can. That's a extension of a living room where my kids are at their coloring books or crafts or whatever. It's another place. They can be a little louder, but it definitely feels like part of the home. It doesn't feel like they're outside, getting thrown outside and getting dirty and all that. They're still in the home, and it's definitely valuable living space. So
Yeah. It's kind of an interesting thought. I've never even thought about it like that, because as soon as you said it's cheaper, I instantly was like, what? Like, there's no way. But when you think about a whole addition to match the size of a deck, then yeah,
right,
it's
exactly.
definitely it's
But
definitely cheaper.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You could build additions cheaper for some of the decks that people are building out
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people are doing gorgeous, magnificent work for sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then I think when it became, um, when the world could start gathering again, right? But outside. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's like, I mean, it was just, there's so many. It was a perfect storm, if you will, to make that just happen in the industry, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, getting a little bit towards the end here. I mean, what
Yeah.
would you say is next for your business? Plans for this year? Are you looking for these same type of jobs and really trying to get these higher end lighting jobs? I mean, I guess what are you looking for the most, or hope you see from 2025?
Um, I'm just going to go with the flow. Like I said, I think last year I downsized. I ceased to have employees in 2024, about in the summer, and I took on a couple really highly skilled carpenters, and that's been kind of whittled down to just me and one other person. That's really efficient, um, and we'll get some summer laborers moving wood around and helping out with some of those tasks too. But I see myself staying in this kind of position, like, again, like I said, again, for a while, just kind of living with it for a year or two, and really track some stuff, really understand what I can do with this model, and just being open to opportunities. Um, the last two big kind of light projects I've done were people coming to me, wanting what they'd seen in the past, right? So the first two I did, it was really tough explaining to people what was in my brain about what I wanted to build for them, because I couldn't show them a picture on the internet of something. I couldn't point to it and say, "Here, this is what we're going to do," right? Because I was just kind of totally making this whole thing up. Now people can look at the past work, and they reach out to me, and they want to do something like that, and they have this vision they really enjoy. Uh, they really have something that's symbolic to them that they want to integrate with it. So um, yeah, just kind of staying open to the year as it unfolds. We got work coming in. Um, Not, by no means is everything a lighting masterpiece, right? That's not It's not what my books are filled with.
Yeah.
I'm not going to turn that away, but they do. That spiral thing that took about 3 months, right? So it's a lot of, um, it's a lot of uh, space in that takes up in your head to deal with that. Make sure those things are kind of on schedule, all the different moving parts, and I think a lot of the guys and gals out there who would hear this would know exactly what I'm saying. It's just it's hard to do the big ones all the time. And some guys do them all the time, and I'm in awe of that. So
Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah, I think that's about it, Dan. I have, I guess, kind of going forward with the podcast, with the Fence and Deck Mastery podcast. We're gonna have a lot of have several different interviews that we're going to be pushing here. But I do encourage you to check out Dan. His website is cool, but his Instagram, I think, is probably the most up to date stuff. His Instagram is northern_outdoor_living, and yeah, you'll see all these crazy things that we're talking about. He's got all the pictures and like videos of that on there. So I
yeah,
think it's
thanks,
worth,
man.
yeah, I think it's worth everybody checking out. And I'll be pulling it back up because now like I said, I've told other people about it, kind of what surprised me from the summit, and I never really had a way of showing what I was talking about. So now it's cool to show your Instagram.
Very cool. Very
I'll be
cool.
able to do that too. But yeah, so that's kind of it going through with the podcast. We're just going to keep hammering out more content, and it seems like everyone's liking it. I was telling Dan, everyone gives me good feedback, but I don't know if they would tell me if they weren't liking it. But I hope everyone is enjoying it, and hope the content's been interesting. And if it is a big help to us if you can review and subscribe to the podcast on whichever platform you use. It just helps us with the rankings and helps get in front of more fence and deck builders. So yeah, that's about it. Dan, I appreciate you coming on here and sharing everything with this. I know everybody got a lot of useful information from you, and hope you kill it for 2025 and beyond.
Cool, man. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Yep, take care, man.
All right.